welcome back. Today we're diving into something that feels less like an interview and more like, well, an interrogation. We're talking about the marriage-based green card investigation. So you know your marriage is real. The question is, can you prove it? Because that's the real challenge here. A green card interview isn't just a friendly chat. It's an investigation. And you have to understand, the officer's job isn't to believe you, it's to verify you. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll look at things through an investigator's lens, talk about the timeline test, the all-important documentation trail, the cohabitation question, and finally, how to build a fraud-proof case. All right, let's get into it. The most important thing you can do right off the bat is shift your entire mindset. You have to stop thinking about what you need to do and start thinking about how everything you do looks to a professional skeptic. I mean, their entire job is to find the holes in your story. See, every single detail is going to be scrutinized for signs of fraud. And it's not just about catching obvious liars. Their goal is actually to find the gaps in the story of a real couple. So, your job, leave no gaps. These officers are trained to spot very specific fraud indicators, and every question they ask is designed to poke and prod until they find an inconsistency. Okay, so first up is the timeline test. Honestly, this is probably the most critical part. It's where your case either builds this super strong foundation or just starts to fall apart. Yeah, there's a reason for that. As one expert report puts it, when any good immigration lawyer dives into a case, the timeline is the whole thing. And that's exactly right. A logical, consistent timeline is everything. It's the story that all your other evidence has to back up. So what kind of things set off alarm bells? Well, look at these timeline red flags. You meet and get married super fast. You've barely spent any time together in person. You get engaged after just a few days. For an officer, this is all about pattern recognition. When they see a combination of these things, the fraud alarms just start going off in their head. And this is a big one. You might be tempted to say, well, when you know, right? But you have to understand, to an investigator, that just sounds like an excuse for not having a real story. Your feelings are totally valid, but they are looking for a documented pattern, not just a sudden decision that happens to be very convenient. Okay, so you've got your timeline straight. Next up, the documentation trail. This is where your paper-based reality has to perfectly match the story you're telling. And believe me, even the smallest discrepancy can completely sink your case. I mean, think about this chain reaction. In one case that was analyzed, a couple handed over their driver's licenses. The addresses didn't match, and just like that, boom. What was a standard interview instantly turned into a high-stakes fraud investigation. They were separated and interrogated, all because of that one detail. And this really shows the difference between a weak case and a strong one, right? Mismatched addresses versus matching ones. Submitting a tax form you never actually filed versus official IRS transcripts. An officer is constantly comparing what you say with what your documents prove. And something like a fake tax form, that's not a simple mistake in their eyes. That's deliberate misrepresentation. Now, you might think, oh, I'll just fix it later with a correction sheet, an errata sheet. And sure, you can fix a minor typo, like a misspelled street name, but you can't use it to fix a major misrepresentation. Something that suggests you are trying to deceive them, that can't be fixed. That's the kind of thing that gets you denied immediately. All right, so we've talked about the paper trail. Now let's move on to what is maybe the most powerful evidence of all. Proving you actually share a life by living together. So if you had to pick the single most important document, the number one most persuasive piece of evidence, what would it be? According to expert analysis, it's the joint lease. A lease or a mortgage with both of your names on it, hands down. Because if your partner's name isn't on the lease, the officers is immediately going to ask, why? And to them, that's not just a casual question. A missing name is a puzzle. And the easiest, most obvious answer they're trained to jump to is fraud. They're going to wonder, are you trying to hide something from the landlord or from us? They might even call your landlord to check. And this chart really shows you the different levels of suspicion. From an officer's perspective, the logic is super simple. Real married couples live together, period. If you tell them, oh, he's not on the lease, suspicion is high. If you say, we live in different houses in the same city, suspicion is through the roof. The only way to keep suspicion low is with that joint lease and updated IDs. Okay, so we know the pitfalls. We understand how an investigator thinks. So, how do you flip the script? How can you proactively build a case that's not just strong, but basically fraud-proof from the get-go? Well, here are 5 key strategies that experts recommend. First, align your official records immediately. Update your licenses, bank accounts, get them all to the same address. Second, prioritize that joint lease. Make it priority number 1. Third, create that shared paper trail. Joint bank accounts, credit cards, car insurance. Fourth, document your history, save photos, tickets, messages. And fifth, prepare for a Stokes interview. That's the really intense one where they separate you and ask you tiny details about each other's lives. And the point isn't to memorize answers, it's to show that you know these things because you actually live a shared life. So what's the key takeaway here? When you boil it all down, what's the one thing you absolutely have to get? It's this. It is not about passing a test. It's about presenting a clear, consistent, well-documented story of a shared life. You shouldn't be scrambling to create evidence a week before your interview. The goal is to just live a documented life together from day one. That way, the evidence is just a natural part of your relationship, not something you have to invent. And you know who the most important storyteller is? The U.S. citizen. As one expert noted, the U.S. citizen is the star witness. And if that star witness seems nervous, or weak, or can't get their story straight, the investigator is trained to pounce on that. They see weakness and they push harder. And so, that leaves us with this final thought. It's the question the investigator is asking themselves as they look through your file. Is your paper life an accurate reflection of your real life? Do your documents tell the story of 2 separate people, or do they paint a clear, undeniable picture of one couple building a future together?